Welcome back to Yvette's View, where we continue to vibe high on good vibrations. This is episode 7, and it's entitled Required Shadow Work. This topic that I'm sharing is the work that I needed to do. And as I mentioned in previous episodes, how I was unbalanced, how I had loyalty without discernment, my intentions, all of that had to go up under this umbrella where I had to go within and change some things that hadn't been checked. Because as I had mentioned, I had no idea that I was unbalanced. I had no idea that I wasn't using discernment. You couldn't have told me that I wasn't. You know what I mean? Just based upon the information that I had at that moment and at that time, based upon my family tree, how I grew up and how I accepted certain ways of being and living in that vein. I didn't realize that there was another step that I had to take to get to this other side. I had to do my own internal shadow work, is what I call it. And that's when you have to literally face yourself of choices and decisions that you've made and acknowledge them, forgive yourself, and then release them. Accept the responsibility of the choices and decisions, be accountable for the choices and decisions, and then forgive yourself. That was the part. I could always accept or take responsibility for the choices and decisions, but the forgiving of myself was the next level in my internal work that I had to do, that was taking a little more time than other things were. Why that was? Partially, you don't feel worthy, or we speak on this, it's about me. I didn't feel worthy to forgive myself for choices and decisions that I made. I didn't feel like I was worth forgiving. But I could take accountability for my actions. I could take responsibility for it, and stand up to it and all of that. But the vulnerable side of that coin, I wasn't used to using that muscle. And going into shadow work, it showed me a lot of who I am. I felt that I deserved to be here. This is my rightful place. I am a goddess in this area. I am a goddess in this world. In order to get to the best of who I am, I had to do the shadow work to even find out who I am. Am I worthy? Because there are entities outside of you that will try to influence you that you're not worthy, that you're not good enough, that you don't deserve this and that you don't deserve that. But I deserve it all, as Kendrick Lamar would say. I deserve it all. It's such a great anthem. But in my world, I had it all because I was able to create it all. But when it was time for me to do my shadow work, it was something that was needed. I had to do that. I had to dig deep. I had to write things out. burn them up, burn those letters up, and forgive myself. Because if I can forgive others, why can't I forgive myself? Why is that such a challenge for me to forgive myself? And as I had to kind of go within myself to even ask myself the question, what is it about that about you that you don't feel like you can forgive yourself? In order to be able to love yourself fully, you're gonna have to forgive yourself and love all of who you are. Accept all of who you are. Finally, though, family, as I continue to want and desire better for my internal mind, body, and spirit, I had to do the spiritual work. And that spiritual work, no one else sees that. That's when you go into your sacred space. Just internally in your mind, sometimes you just have to get quiet and sit with yourself. Forgive myself for having expectations when I'm supposed to just freely do whatever I do and let it go without any expectations of getting anything back. But when you've grown up to thinking that if I do something for you, you're supposed to do something for me. That's going to happen regardless, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come from those that you give to. You hear that all the time, right? In the church, when they would tell you to give and you would get back 30, 60, and 100-fold. And when they would tell me, I'm just giving a scenario, how they would make excuses and I would get mad behind that. So I'm just going to keep it a buck. My mother told me one time, let me just give this is the situation. My mother told me one time, at this one particular time, this preacher said, in 3 days, you're going to receive your flow back in 3 days. Your 30, 60, and 100. You give me $21 and in 3 days, you're going to get 104 of that back. My mother would tell me, well, sometimes it doesn't come back in money, it'll come back in other ways. And my response to that is, if I planted corn, I don't expect to reap tomatoes. And I was in expectation of receiving some type of windfall for my investment. Because the way I saw it too is you're investing in a spiritual sense, but you're using monetary things for a spiritual return. That just came to me in the flow. But in that mindset, I was expecting, if I'm giving monetarily, I'm expecting to receive something back monetarily. And if I sow, and they talk about what you reap, you're gonna sow. Well, if I sow money, I expect to receive money back. I trusted that if I followed this prescription that they told me, if you give and, with your whole heart, the Lord will bless you 30, 60, and 100-fold. So whatever it is that I sow, I'm supposed to reap that back. That was my understanding. And when that didn't happen, I was like, okay, I've been hoodwinked. Somebody lying. But then we justified it by, sometimes it's gonna come back in corn. Well, no, I didn't sow corn. I sold $21. So where my money? And now you can't tell me any of that again because I don't believe you. And it's a gimmick. I'm grateful for all of those life lessons, I'm grateful for everything that I participated in because it made me who I am today. It took me down a lane that I had to go down and go through so that I could be on this side, so that I could be on the other side of it and talk about it and tell others that, hey, forgive yourself for that. They did the best they could. I even did that even with my family and my father, I'll say that, because I would wonder why he would be the way he was until I had to get more information about where he came from and how he was raised and how that affected him and how that can pass down from generation to generation if we don't do some shadow work to clear that up. We will continue to pass trauma to the next generation. And I definitely had to forgive myself on that part as well. Even in raising my own son, I'm thinking I definitely passed down trauma. And I had to get to the point where I had to forgive myself for that because I did the best that I thought I was doing. I thought I was doing the right thing. And not that it was the wrong thing, but it could have been done differently where it wouldn't be traumatic, or I wouldn't intentionally try to hurt or scar or maim my child that I brought here. But there are some mental scars that I'm sure I passed on to him. It was so important that I did the shadow work because it definitely helps me to live and love myself fully. And in forgiveness and being vulnerable in that lane, I'm able to love myself even more because I'm grateful for those times of how I lived, and then being able to acknowledge the part that I played in them, accept accountability, and then forgive myself for that. And so for that, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I now have a tool to use to free myself, if you will, from all traumas. And it's still layers to my shadow work. I will continue to be doing shadow work. It is not a one and done thing. It is continual. So the shadow work was so important, and it was required, and I'm grateful for that. So here's the end of this episode. Stay tuned for the next one. With that being said, family, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you're notified every time I post a video, and click on the word all. And let's stay high on that good high vibrations, family. It's all joy, it's all love. Peace.